Okay, so very sincere welcome to everyone. We are live on YouTube, we are live on Facebook. Today we're going to be going through readings from Enlightened Women, stories about enlightened women in the Zen Buddhist tradition. We're going to go through those readings. We're going to discuss them from a meditative place, from a place of deep listening, sharing our own personal wisdom and maybe asking questions or presenting ideas about what these stories might be about. Then we're going to read a commentary or a talk, a short kind of commentary on those stories from someone who's a very experienced practitioner. After that, we will be practicing meditation together for not too long, but a good amount of time. And that's what our event will be today. If you are watching this video after our live is already over, so if you're watching this later on, you can go ahead and move to the 10-minute mark, and that's when we will officially kind of begin with our reading discussion followed by group meditation. Okay, so a very sincere welcome to everyone who's here. We're going to get started in not too long with the reading. Nice to see everyone on Discord, Katal, Dia, Famo, Gente, Gold, Jonathan, Joe, Mr. Meowcat, Stacy, and Marley. Welcome everybody. Great to see you here. We'll just make one more announcement about our session together. And if you are watching on Facebook or if you're watching on another platform and you'd like to watch, to kind of join in the most direct way possible, you can go to the YouTube channel and you can find the YouTube channel by searching for Welcome to Monk Life on YouTube. And you'll see that we are live there on YouTube. And that should be the kind of the highest quality stream and should be one of the best places to watch. Hey there, Keem. Gold attending via YouTube today. That's great. And we also have some people watching through Facebook, which is also nice. Hey there, DK, and Your Positive Mind, and Kiana, and Janelle, and Gold on YouTube. If there are any issues with the stream, any technical issues, please just let me know. I can't control everything in that regard, but I will try to make sure that everything goes smoothly.
Just a quick tip. If the Discord joining and leaving sounds distract you at all, you can go into settings and notifications and turn that off.
Great. A tip for Discord. That's maybe I'm able to do that. Let's see. Settings, notifications.
And then you've got a bunch of sounds.
That's right. Sounds for viewer join, viewer leave.
Voice disconnect.
Oh, I see. Okay, that's great.
Yeah.
That's really helpful. User join, user leave. Okay. So anyway, we're going to start in, let's see what the timer says. We're going to get started in 5 more minutes. So take this time to settle in. Bringing our attention onto the breath and the body. Hey there, Aaron. And Famo, see your message there. And hello, Ophelia and Robin, Wompt, Zachary, Maya, Christina, joining on the Discord. That's great. So a part of what
Good
we
day to you,
will,
Bante.
yeah, a part of what we will be doing today is, sharing what comes up for us as we go through these readings, as we go through these stories. So it's an opportunity not only um, to hear, let's say my wisdom or my take on it, but also to share what comes up for you as we're reading through it. And since we've been doing these kind of sessions where we are focusing on members of the community sharing what they notice about the reading or what comes up from them, there's a lot of wisdom that people here have to share. And so please do consider to share it in that way if you can. Hi, Nino. Welcome.
Hello.
So just another 3 minutes before we officially begin.
Bante, perhaps you can help me. I'm looking for a good version of the crossing the river and leaving the raft behind story.
I don't know about that, but maybe we can talk about after the session, Wompt. You can send me a message about that. So just starting to really settle in, to turn our attention inward towards our breath and our body. Taking a deep breath and bringing that scattered, figuring out mind, thought-based mind, story mind, really bringing the mind home to the body, bringing up this seed, this sincere intention to use this as a time to practice, as a time to listen deeply from the heart, and perhaps learn a little bit about enlightenment, about Zen Buddhism, about meditation, the enlightened point of view. And it's not for sure that these texts have some kind of magical inherent wisdom, but they might. So really putting yourself in a position to be open to listening deeply and to hearing, receiving what these texts have to offer, these stories from enlightened women. And there's a bit of a preface or an introduction to this book that we will also read through, kind of how we can listen deeply, how we can use this book and this listening practice as a practice, as an exercise, not just a passive reading or a form of consumption. And when we officially begin, I will ring the bell. That'll kind of be our starting sound. I know that the bell doesn't come through so well through some of the microphones that I use. So you might have to use your imagination for the sound of the bell, but at least you can kind of see me hitting it and hopefully hear it a little bit as we begin. And as we hear the sound of the bell, we can bring to mind that we are inviting the bell and that the bell invites us into mindfulness, into a state of presence and deep listening, a real attentiveness to our present moment and to this experience that we're having right now. All right, so very sincere welcome to everyone joining. We're going to get right into our reading today. The title of this book that we will be using is called The Hidden Lamp. And this is a compilation of stories and teachings from enlightened women throughout history. Oftentimes in Buddhism or in any religion, there is a over-representation of men and a masculine point of view and a masculine idea of God or enlightenment. And so here I thought it was really wonderful that we can kind of tune in and listen to this feminine experience, at least in some ways, of enlightenment. So a few snippets here from suggestions for how to practice with the hidden lamp. First of all, how you read and approach this book is entirely up to you. You can engage with these stories, whoever you are. You don't need to be a Zen student, a scholar, or an experienced meditator. This book can be read from cover to cover or piece by piece. Approach these stories, these koans, these stories of enlightened women, and your responses to them as mirrors for your own life at this moment. So we aren't so much kind of like imagining what it would be like for us to be in this story, but how these stories are mirrors for our life at this moment. You can take a phrase from the story that particularly moves you, write it down, and bring it up during the day in your ordinary activities or meditation practice. Alternatively, you can also consider to write down, or if you notice a particular phrase as we go through these readings, pick it up. And after we do the reading and that time for discussion and sharing is open, you can consider to share it and maybe talk about what that meant for you or what you noticed about it. And this final part here, Buddhist practice, although deeply personal, is not something most people can sustain entirely on their own. Teachers and Dharma groups are the lifeblood of the Dharma. If you have a teacher or if you have a group, consider exploring the story together. If you are a part of a Sangha or Dharma study group, and many of us here are lucky for that to be the case, it can be fruitful and fun to work with these stories in a small group. Read them together, sit with them together, respond to them together, and explore what we notice about them. Suzuki Roshi, who is a very well-known kind of Zen teacher, one of these Japanese monks that brought Zen to the West, giving a talk about koans, or these Zen stories, said, "Koan is not something to explain. We talk about it to give some suggestion, you know. It is a suggestion. We don't talk about what koan means directly. We give you just suggestion, and according to the introduction or suggestion, you work on koan. That is how we explain koan and how you listen to koan. So the first story we will be looking at here is called Clapping Her Hands and Laughing, Stories of Seeking and Awakening. Clapping Her Hands and Laughing, Stories of Seeking and Awakening. The Old Woman of Mount Wutai. This story comes from the 9th century in China. And before I read this, before we really listen to it, we can take just a few deep breaths. Making sure that our body is comfortable. Bringing our mind and our heart and our awareness to the forefront of our life, here and now. Touching into this intimacy, this sincerity, to really step into and to embody our life at this moment. Letting go of expectations or goals. Just breathing and being aware. Really attending to and showing up to this moment wholeheartedly. Listening from the heart, and as we listen, maintaining our meditative practice, whether that's following the breath or just listening deeply. The Old Woman of Mount Wutai. An old woman lived on the road to Mount Wutai. A monk on pilgrimage asked her, "Which is the way to Mount Wutai?" The old woman said, "Right, straight ahead." The monk took a few steps, and she said, "He's a good monk, but off he goes just like the others." Monks came one after another. They'd ask the same question and receive the same answer. Later, a monk told Master Zhao Zhao Kongshen what had happened, and Zhao Zhao said, "I'll go and investigate that old woman myself." Next day, Zhao Zhao went to the old woman and asked, "Which is the way to Mount Wutai?" "Right straight ahead," she replied. Zhao Zhao took a few steps. The old woman said, "He's a good monk, but off he goes just like the others." Zhao Zhao returned to the monastery and told the monks, "I have checked out the old woman of Mount Wutai for you." So this koan can be maybe a very mysterious feeling. And so I think for this first one, before we give our own insight or our own ideas of what comes up, we'll just go right into a reflection from a more experienced practitioner. So their reflections and their comments on this koan. Years ago, before practicing Zen, I read an article about Dorothy Day, the Christian activist. She had recently died, and the article included one of her favorite poems, written by Rabindranath Tagore. I slept and dreamt that life was joy. I awoke and found that life was duty. I acted and behold, duty was joy. I cut those lines out of the magazine. I cut those lines out of the magazine, tucked them in my wallet, and carried them around for years. They captured a longing I had for a long time. They captured a longing I had for a life that was all of a whole. What I called at the time being fully human. In this koan about the old woman of Mount Wu Tai, I recognize my own seeking in that of the pilgrims, looking for some way of living that would seem complete, compassionate, and wise. When I read this koan, I imagine an old woman who lived most of her life near a crossroads on the way to Mount Wu Tai. As a younger woman, perhaps she raised children, cared for her husband and parents, cleaned, cooked, tended animals, and raised food for her family. Maybe over her long life, she had witnessed many pilgrims who were seeking the mountain, seeking the Buddha's wisdom, seeking some special experience that might change their lives so they could embody that wisdom themselves. Many had asked her, which is the way to Mount Wu Tai? Or rather, please help me, I am suffering. So this idea that these pilgrims heading towards Mount Wu Tai, they weren't arbitrarily going to this mountain or to this place, but they were going there because they were seeking peace. They were seeking enlightenment. So many had asked her, which is the way to Mount Wu Tai? Or, please help me, I am suffering. How did she answer when she was a younger woman? Perhaps literally, go left or go right. After all, she knew which way led to the mountain. Over the years of her life, a stream of sincere seekers passed by. We live our daily, ordinary lives right alongside of our seeking. There must be more to this living. Everything I care about changes, dies away. Everything I wish were different doesn't change enough or not in the right way. We see for ourselves that getting things or money or influence doesn't ease the longing. Even being loved doesn't ease the longing, this desire to end suffering. And there is more. Not only do those I love change and die, but so do I. And what is this I? Over time, perhaps the woman who lived on the way to Mount Wu Tai matured and ripened into the very compassion and wisdom that the pilgrims were seeking. Instead of pointing the exact way, she offered an experience that stopped their minds and raised a question. What does she mean by right straight ahead? When the way is not straight? And why does she say it to everyone? One of the attractions of this koan for me is that the language of the old woman is so much that of my late Zen teacher, Master Sung San. Master Sung San is a very well-known Zen teacher who brought kind of Korean Zen or Korean Sun to the West. The teaching with which he ended every retreat and every letter was, only go straight, don't know, try for 10,000 years nonstop. soon get enlightenment, and save all beings from suffering. That's a heck of a way to end a talk. And there's a strong contrast between that kind of encouragement and selling you on something, trying to get you to buy into some philosophy or to subscribe to some system of belief, but rather the teaching with which this Zen master ended every meditation retreat and every letter or communication between themselves and their students was only go straight. Don't know. Try, try, try for 10,000 years non-stop. Soon get enlightenment and save all beings from suffering. So, especially within Zen, there is this aspect of Zen meditation of not knowing, the intimacy of not knowing, the intimacy of not understanding. Only go straight. Don't know. This has everything we need: question, courage, faith, direction, compassion, and vow. The old woman of Wu Tai, from her experience, boiled it down to right straight ahead. How do we go straight ahead? Don't know. This question, any sincere question in the moment of asking it, returns us to a mind that is before thinking. So we often have this, especially in like when I guiding for a body scanning meditation, I ask this question of, what is it like to have a body? And it's not the question itself that is important, but it is the sincerity, it is the heart that we put into it. So this question, straight ahead, don't know. This question, any sincere question in the moment of asking it, returns us to a mind that is before thinking. So what is this mind that is before thinking? Talk about a question. And maybe we can ask sincerely together for a moment this question to ourselves. What is this mind before thinking, before thought? What is this mind before thinking? What is this mind? In this moment of asking, we and this universe are not split apart. No separation in this moment of asking. How is it just now? What is the job of this moment? What a simple and portable practice. I always encourage people, yeah, we're practicing meditation together for this particular amount of time. We're focusing on our breath. We are aware of the body. We are not knowing, just going straight ahead. But even more so than that, in this moment of asking, in this moment of questioning, what is this? We are not split apart. How is it just now? What is the job of this moment? What a simple and portable practice. I live on a farm and we plant many vegetable seeds. Those tiny seeds contain an unbelievable force that brings together earth, nutrients, microbes, tilth, water, heat, gases, sunlight. When the seeds germinate, their tender forms move earth and rocks and go in whatever direction is needed to grow. As the plants mature and flower, they offer us the oxygen and nourishment we need to live, as well as color, variety, medicine, and many other benefits. Finally, the plants make new seeds before they wither, decompose, and give back to the earth what is left. In fertile ground and with proper conditions, their seeds will start the cycle over again. We can say this cycle of arising and passing away. I imagine this phrase, right straight ahead, as a wonderful seed that the old woman of Wutai planted in the fertile ground of the pilgrims, the ground of not knowing, of being willing to ask. Her seed is still being planted and cultivated in us as we open to it. What an inspiration! May each of us create fertile soil and plant seeds beneficial to all. I think we can all agree on that affirmation. May each of us create fertile soil and plant seeds beneficial to all. What is the point of spiritual seeking, and what do you hope to find there? Have you ever overlooked the wise person right in front of you, clothed in a seemingly ordinary form? So that is our first story with commentary of the old woman of Mount Wutai who told all the pilgrims, right straight ahead. So my fellow pilgrims who are here now, wherever you may be watching from, what do you think about this story? What idea comes up? Anything that inspires you or really rung close to your heart? Keeping in mind that this isn't a place for intellectual floundering or conceptual ideas, but from the heart, is there something that resonated you, something that you really, that touched you deeply, and that you may want to share and to express with the group? So we take a moment to open the space for that, for people who would like to share. And if you can use your voice in the Discord, that's ideal, but you can also type on the YouTube chat or type on Discord. It's up to you. And if we don't have anything to say, we can just really be with the breath and be in this state of a deep listening.
Left thinking of, it's a scene from Ursula Le Guin's Left Hand of Darkness, and the question in this particular chapter is, the statement I should say, is there's nothing more useless than having the correct answer to the wrong question. And that's the idea that comes up from this reading regarding the monks and what they were asking the woman.
Wow, great. Thank you so much for that, Joe. It was, there's nothing more useless than having the right answer to the wrong question. Wow, that's wonderful. Thank you. Aaliyah Rose, who's watching through the YouTube channel, says, the mind before thought is the true self free of ego. Okay, very interesting.
I was a bit surprised by how much emphasis was put on the right and then straight ahead. I thought the more important part was the second part. I don't know the right wording, but it was something like, I thought he was a good monk, but there he goes, like all the other ones, or something along those lines. I found that to be more important. I wrote down something while I was listening. Why must the pilgrims seek out the mountain? Enlightenment doesn't have to be far away or difficult to attain. They could have stayed with the old woman. It would have been good for them, of them to her, but also good for themselves.
Thank you. Thank you, Marley. Okay, so Keem is asking me to read again the part about planting those beneficial seeds. So I'll read this this whole last part about these beneficial seeds. I live on a farm, and we plant many vegetable seeds. Those tiny seeds contain an unbelievable force that brings together earth, nutrients, microbes, tilth, water, heat, gases, and sunlight. We can also understand this as the seeds of our intentionality, the seeds of the actions that we take. But literally, when the seeds germinate, their tender forms move earth and rocks and go in whatever direction is needed to grow. As the plants mature and flower, they offer us the oxygen and nourishment we need to live, as well as color, variety, medicine, and many other benefits. Finally, the plants make new seeds before they wither, decompose, and give back to the earth what is left. In fertile ground, and with proper conditions, their seeds will start the cycle over again. I imagine this phrase, right straight ahead, as a wonderful seed that the old woman of Wutai planted in the fertile ground of the pilgrims. The ground of not knowing, of being willing to ask. This idea of not knowing as being most intimate, or this state of not knowing as being a deeply fertile ground. Her seed is still being planted and cultivated in us as we open to it. What an inspiration! May each of us create fertile soil and plant seeds beneficial to all. Okay, Keem, you're so welcome. And just to wrap up this first part, this first story, what is the point of spiritual seeking, and what do you hope to find there? Have you ever overlooked the wise person right in front of you, clothed in a seemingly ordinary form? I saw Nino that.
Add something.
Go ahead, Abi.
Yeah, so I saw this notification right before I was brushing my teeth, getting ready to go to bed, and I knew I knew the book, so I knew it was coming, and this is, I've encountered this koan a couple of times. It's one of my favorites, and so even though I should be in bed, I really wanted to see what unfolds about this one, and a couple of thoughts about each time you approach the koan. It's an entirely different experience, and a couple of thoughts popped up this round based on my study in the previous week. A couple of different connections, and so I'd like to talk about those.
Please.
And so here's this man who he walks up to the woman and he asks her. He walks up to this old woman, this monk, and he asks her. He asks her where what the way is. Where is the way? He asks her for the way. And this woman says, "Go straight ahead." Now there's this very famous sutta called the Anapanasati Sutta, where the Buddha talks about mindfulness of breathing, one of very central practice one of his favorites, right? And one of the phrases he uses in the first sutta is to look in front. And this looking in front he's talking about is not, look in front of your nostrils and see the air go in and out. It's not getting caught up in the past, the present, thoughts, obscurities, anything that blocks your way, but look in front at this, unfolding before you. To pay attention to what's happening right here and now. This looking in front. And as the woman said, go straight ahead. And then this monk, he walks off, rather mean. Anyway, he walks off, and the woman says, what she says? She says, "Oh, look at him! Go, such a good monk, but he goes off like the others." And there's this phrase in another phrase in classical Buddhism called Silabhata Paramasa, which is attachment to rites and rituals, convention. And so there's this monk. He's only used to getting wisdom from his master. He's used to going into the Sanzen room and encountering the teacher, and there he'll figure out where the way is, right? But in waiting for convention, and so not paying attention to where anything can come from, where everything comes from, he faltered for a second. He forgot, and he missed the Buddha before his eyes. And that was this present iteration of what I thought about this call.
Abhi, thank you so much. That was really, really wonderful to hear that. And then I just see that Nino is saying here in the text chat, the saying the teacher had at the end of every talk, the unknowing part and just trying, really spoke to me. The fear that drives the urge to find the answer or explanation to the moments we are experiencing, and just letting go of that fear by just engaging with life as it comes brings great clarity for me. Yeah, I also felt that, Nino. I also really connect with that. Just, you go straight ahead. You don't know. You don't figure it out. You don't get all the answers. You go straight ahead. You do your best to practice, to show up. Okay, so let's move to this second story. I think we'll do 2 stories today. So this will be the second of these enlightened women. And it really is wonderful to have this reading and this Buddhist emphasis on women. It's so often dominated by stories about men. And so to have these stories of enlightened women is really great. So the title of this story is Enoja Seeks the Self. Enoja Seeks the Self. And this is from the 6th century in India. Enoja was a great queen at the time of the Buddha. Her husband, King Mahakapina, journeyed to hear the Buddha's teaching and became a monk, along with many of his attendants. He sent a messenger back to his court with the news. And when Enoja asked if the king had sent a message for her, the messenger said, "He gives all his royal power to you. Enjoy the glory and pleasure." But instead, Enoja said, "The Buddha could not have arisen only for the benefit of men, but for women as well." So she and her attendants also made the journey to hear the Buddha and to ordain. Mahakapina, now a monk, was present, but the Buddha, using his magic powers, made the king invisible. So we often think about maybe Buddhism as not so magical, but here the Buddha used his powers. So Mahakapina, now a monk, was present, but the Buddha, using his magic powers, made the king invisible. When the queen and her attendants heard the Buddha speak, they all became stream enterers, the first of 4 levels of Buddhist realization. Then the Buddha asked Anoja, "Would you rather seek the king or seek the nature of the self?" Without hesitation, she replied, "The nature of the self." Seeking the nature of the self. And we'll take a look at this commentary again. I think it's so direct and worthwhile to kind of put these together. Anoja speaks to me as one of those strong, perceptive women who understood the Buddha's message and the opportunity he offered, and saw no reason it should be limited to men. But as I look more closely, her story highlights the choices I myself face in daily life. As a queen, Anoja was accustomed to ease and luxury, used to having the power to control others. She must have been tempted to stay and do what her husband invited her to do, continue to enjoy the glory and pleasure of royal dominance. I certainly would have been tempted to stay if I were her, for in my 21st century life, I cling to my creature comforts and resort to my regular escape routes of food and drink, entertainments and relationships, to keep me moving in the same old grooves, filled with the same old discontent. The story doesn't tell us whether Anoja agonized over her decision. Did she hesitate? Did she lie awake wondering what to do? Did she engage in a process of introspection and self-questioning? I know I would have, and I don't know if I would have had the courage to make the choices she made. Anoja realized, even from afar, and never having seen the Buddha before, that the Buddha was offering something more precious than all the wealth in her kingdom, more powerful than all the freedoms and powers that she had been taught to cultivate. When I am most clear, I also understand that in giving up my attachments, I attain true freedom from suffering. She set off with her attendants to meet the Buddha, and he realized that she was on her way. He was well versed in the magic arts, but also he must have had quite a sense of humor, for he hid the king now turned monk by making him invisible, setting up the conditions for Anoja to be tested a second time. Queen Anoja and her ladies-in-waiting and other attendants had evidently lived many virtuous past lives and were karmically ripe for enlightenment, because just by hearing the Buddha speak his wisdom, that day they entered the great stream of Dharma, the great stream of awakening. When the Buddha saw that Anoja and her attendants were established on the path, he proceeded to question her. No doubt he was wondering, is this woman really serious about this Dharma stuff? Or did she come here just hoping to pry away her ex-husband because she misses him so much? He asked Anoja the crucial question, knowing that Mahakapina was there watching and listening. Did she long for the security and pleasure of a relationship with her presumably beloved partner? Or did she truly wish to discover what it is to be a human being? Another temptation. This time, not material goods and worldly power, but the sweet safety of an intimate relationship. And I can say for sure that, this is something that I deal with as a monk. How many of us have faced this choice between a relationship and what we knew to be the path of growth and clarity? In college, my brilliant French major roommate was dating a grad student. When she won a Fulbright grant to study in France for a year, her boyfriend insisted she refuse the opportunity and stay home with him. Thrilled by the romance of it all, I supported her decision when she gave in to him. Not too many years later, involved in my own passionate love affair, I turned down a fellowship in a prestigious graduate writing program for the sake of romance, choosing the familiar path of short-term gratification. And I think it's true, we often do choose this short-term path of immediate gratification instead of the big path of establishing ourselves in peace and growth. It was a move that turned out badly on several fronts. The Buddha, and I just have to say that I can really attest to this. When you have the mind of the Dharma, or you have the mind of you're really seeking for your enlightenment, your peace, your greater well-being, then those short-term gratifications come up and you almost couldn't resist them. And then you pursue that, you get involved with that, and immediately you feel that you've missed out. You feel that you made the wrong decision, the unskillful decision, because that short-term gratification is no replacement and no substitute for a letting go, but a deepening of this question of what is the self? What is it to desire? What is it to be? Not to chase, not to get. It was a move that turned out badly on several fronts. The Buddha asked Anoja, "Would you rather seek the king or the nature of the self?" And the story indicates that she responded without hesitation. We can't know her inner process, but I imagine that she perhaps did hesitate as she felt the lure of the known and comfortable, and then the pang of loss as she made her choice to move forward on the path. Anoja's story brings a truth home to me. Often, in order to do what is most authentic and appropriate, I must step away from the familiar. In order to do what is most authentic and most appropriate, I must step away from the familiar. I have to let go of my belief in the person I was yesterday and venture forward into new, more spacious territory. Anoja's story offers a model for choosing the more life-enhancing path, taking a chance on liberation. What do you seek truly? And what are you willing to renounce for it? Is it necessary to leave your home in order to find what is within you? So let's sit with that for a few moments. And then if someone feels inspired to share something from their heart about this reading, this teaching, the space will be open for you to share. And that place of not knowing, that place of breathing and being aware, intimacy with the breath and the body, this can be a place of deep listening and opening. Not knowing, not taking that path of short-term gratification just because it's familiar. What do you seek truly? And what are you willing to renounce for it? Is it necessary to leave your home in order to find what is within you? Any thoughts or ideas about this? You can use the voice text channel, or you can use the text channel in YouTube, or you can use your voice, up to you. Wampt, did you want to say something?
By what means does seeking become finding?
Not knowing, straight ahead. So you don't replace knowing for not knowing. Not knowing is not a state of knowing. It is a state of not knowing. So once you attain, once you step into the place of not knowing, maybe there's some kind of knowing there. You'll have to see for yourself, Wampt. Keem is saying in the voice text, I think that Anoja knew what a right answer was, even despite her hesitation. She had seen the skillful path and recognized that it's time to sacrifice her short-term gratification. So sometimes to sacrifice, to let go of short-term gratification for a more deeper or more authentic goal. And it goes to that question that was posed at the end. What do we truly seek? What are we really interested in? Is it some short-term gratification? Is it some experience of power or influence or getting what we want? Or is there something deeper? Is there something more authentic that we are really looking for as human beings? Thank you, Keem. Alston Molly said, accepting responsibility for the journey. Accepting responsibility for the journey. Thank you, Austin. So Marley says, but can human connection not be what we seek? How do we know if something is short-term gratification or deeply fulfilling in the long term? Choosing work over love could have been just as disappointing in the long term. And Wampt adding, I would say seeking does not become finding. When the old woman said straight ahead, every monk continued to take steps. Okay, that's wonderful. Thank you, Wampt. Marley, I think to your questions, it goes back to that first story of really sincerely asking those questions, not to get an answer, not out of expectation, but asking those questions as an invitation to your mind before thoughts. So to really sincerely ask that question, is what I seek human connection? How do we know if something is short-term gratification or deeply fulfilling? And so it's to sincerely ask that question rather than trying to find the answer for it. Because if we're trying to find the answer, we're not asking the question. We're just looking for an answer. So the practice here is to really deeply, deeply question. What's this all about? What do we truly seek? And no one else can answer that for us. It's not about, some of these Zen stories or some teacher giving us the answer, but here the encouragement is to really put us into this position of asking the question, what are we really seeking? What are we really looking for? And each of us are going to have a unique answer to that, right? But that questioning and that space before thought, that space after thought, that's something that we're sharing. That's an intimacy there. And what is that? What is that experience?
You hear me with that said?
Yeah, Fabian, go ahead. You share something?
Yeah, I want to share something. First, thank you for the story. And it's really relieving when you said that even as you as monk are tempted by this short gratification. And I really like the second story a lot, and this resonated quite deeply with me because I was retrospecting my day and saw all this short gratifications I gave into. Is it Netflix watching or eating sweets or just gazing on my phone instead of like doing something for self-growth and for like self-care? And I think the story is a great reminder on like, yeah, what you said, like what we're really seeking, what is like the long term, what is the path we want to go.
Thank you, Fabian. So we have a few more people sharing in the voice text channel here on Discord. Famo says, the lines, what do you seek truly? Is it necessary to leave your home in order to find what is within you? Struck me a lot. Before seeking anything else, it's more important that we understand ourselves first. We spend so much time looking for happiness, fulfillment outside. We should spend more time instead looking within. Thank you, Famo. That's very wise. Okay, Joe is sharing, I keep trying to find a good way to say this, but I am left thinking of the I Ching, where fire is the symbol of love and addiction. The logic is that fire can warm you or destroy you. It's all a question of what is burning. So it was a question of what burned in the queen, desire for the short-term benefit of her husband or enlightenment. Great. And maybe there's that meme or that old image, or maybe it's a Native American saying, I don't know, but you have two wolves within you, and depending on which one you feed, that's going to be your journey. That's what you're going to be dealing with. So we can feed that wolf of short-term gratification, or we can feed that wolf, that aspect of ourselves of sincere seeking, sincere looking about that question, what do we want really? What are we truly looking for? Not just to, the body says, oh, I want a sweet, I want a bubble tea. Sure, the body might want a bubble tea, but your essence, your heart, your mind nature, your awareness nature to question wholeheartedly, what is it that I want? And you may find that it's bubble tea. Bubble tea sure does taste nice. Okay, so Nicole sharing in the voice text. Nicole says, I think it's not about what's short-term or long-term. It's knowing in yourself the meaning to yourself and knowing what you are willing to do or give to get that particular thing. Leaving home gets you away from your familiar. I may be off base. I'm new to Buddhism. Well, I think there's some wisdom in what you said. Thank you, Nicole. And Marley says, so asking and feeling out the answer, so to speak, analyzing how I feel when I ask the question. I think that that's true, but also that willingness to ask without the expectation of a certain answer or even any answer. That questioning itself is so vital and so alive, to really sincerely ask. There may not be an answer, but to ask is to look and to explore, to feel into, like you said. And Keem says, we must be careful to be kind with ourselves. Even if we lose ourselves in those short-term gains from time to time, losing ourselves is the only way of reminding ourselves what our true path is. Thank you, Keem. And for sure, we don't want to pick up this kind of abrasive, harsh idea of, we need to live this one particular way, and otherwise we're doomed to hell. We don't need to have an idea like that. But it's just like you said, Keem, by falling off the path, we know what the path is, and we know where that real meaning is for us. So we have so many bubble teas that we say, bubble teas don't have enlightenment within them. And so we might still have bubble teas, but we're not confusing pleasure or short-term satisfaction with the embodiment of living our best life and establishing peace in our life. Okay. So, everyone who is here, what I want to do now is just take a moment to maybe stretch a bit. So kind of move your body around a little bit. You might want to stretch your back. I'm not sure how you're sitting, but maybe to roll your shoulders, to roll your head, your neck. Move around a little bit. Really bring your attention, your awareness to the body. Maybe adjust your position that you're sitting in. Making sure that you're comfortable. Maybe if you're a monk, you can adjust your robe a bit. Don't know if we have any other monks watching this, but you could maybe adjust your robe just to really make sure that you are comfortable. And what we're going to do now is step into a practice of meditation. We've spent a really good amount of time, just about an hour, listening to these teachings, connecting with our inner wisdom, hearing from the wisdom of the community, listening to these sincere contemplations about how we live our life, how we show up to our life. And I would say that we've kind of brought ourselves to this place of intimacy, this place of sincerity. And so to wrap up our practice together, I really invite and request everyone who's been participating to join in a closing practice of meditation. So take a moment to get comfortable. to make sure that you're in a position for you to practice meditation. You can even lay down. It's okay if you want to lay down, but just get comfortable. And if we've been watching the stream, watching the screen, we can kind of bring our eyes and bring that energy in our mind inward. We can take 2 or 3 deep conscious breaths to really bring the mind home to the body. Not discarding all of this wisdom and intimacy and heart that we've connected with during this time from these teachings, not to discard that, but really to bring it all into the body. Breathing our awareness and our attention into the lungs, into our heart. Feeling our awareness fill up our body, so very embodied. Very present and attuned to the feeling of having a body right now, whatever that is for you. And as we feel our awareness and our attention coming into our body, kind of scanning through and noticing any particular tension or tightness or pain in the lower body, the torso, the upper body. Noticing any pain or tightness. And as you breathe, really breathing into that tightness or that pain and just accepting it, relaxing it. No struggle, no worry about that feeling, that experience. Closing our eyes if it feels comfortable for us to do that. Just breathing, being aware of our body. And with this focus on your breath and this awareness of your body, taking in these questions, questioning from the heart, from the breath, from your embodiment. What do you seek truly? And what are you willing to renounce for it? Is it necessary to leave your home in order to find what is within you? So as we take in these questions, really bringing in the practice of not knowing, going straight ahead, breathing and being aware. I invite everyone here to join their hands together with me out of a kind of sincerity and respect for our own practice and the practice of the other people joining us, and repeating after me these words of metta, of loving kindness towards ourselves and then to all beings. Repeating after me. May I be well, happy, and peaceful. May I be kind and compassionate. May I take care of myself happily. May my heart be a source of joy. May my breath be a source of joy. Feeling the breath, feeling this energy of loving kindness within ourselves, really being with it, connecting with it. May I be happy and peaceful. May joy and peace follow me wherever I go. May I be patient and forgiving with myself. May my heart be a source of joy and happiness. May my breath be a source of joy and happiness. May all beings be at peace. May all beings experience joy and happiness. May all beings feel loved and protected. May it be so. May it be so. May it really be so. At the sound of the bell, we can all bow together. Okay. Thank you, everyone, so much for joining in this live group practice, this group meditation. Please do be gentle and kind with yourself as you go into the rest of your evening, your day, whatever it may be for you. And remember that you can bring this practice of not knowing, straight ahead, being with the breath, into all aspects of your life. So don't just leave it here. Pick it up and take it with you. Our next group session will be Thursday at 2 o'clock. And that's going to be the start of our book club. Anyone who's watching now, I really invite you and encourage you, if you are able to, follow along with our book club, because this is going to be a really good book and a great way to connect with the community and to learn about this art of living according to Buddhism, according to meditation, according to Thich Nhat Hanh. So if you're not already in the Discord server, you can join with a link in the YouTube. But anyway, we'll be reading aloud, and all of the book club sessions will be recorded, so you can join along just through watching later. Okay? So thank you, everyone, so much for joining. I am personally just going to finish by chanting, kind of paying respect to the Buddha, to our teacher, who has since passed. You know, the Buddha was a human being. But especially because I am sitting in front of the Buddha for our session, I'm just going to do a final chanting to pay respect and appreciation to the Buddha, that this represents the historical Buddha, but also the Buddha within each of us. That capacity, that ability for us to really wake up, to really have peace in our lives. Okay? Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Thank you so much for joining, everybody. That's the end.